Welcome. We are here in ancient India. I'm just going to give you a brief of what we have done and then go into the lecture. We started with prehistory. We saw what all Neolithic, Paleolithic, Chalcolithic ages. And then we came to Indus Valley. Indus Valley was the first set of people who were here. They had a culture, they had a civilization, which gradually dies by 1500 BC. The new set of people come in through the Khyber Pass and whatnot and start settling in the Indus Valley region. That's where the early Vedic age happened. And then these people started moving across the Gangetic plain and settling there also, coming to the end of very end of Gangetic plain, which is the Patliputra, the Bihar area. That was the later Vedic age, and those settlements also started blowing out of proportions, becoming Mahajanapatas, the huge cities which we see, which we call the second urbanization. There was Magad and all these Vrijji and whatnot. Magad was very important. Magad became very powerful. Later they declined. Then the Sheshana comes. Then Kanvas came. That has been going on. Different dynasties have been coming and going, and Kanvas came. Then after Kanvas, we had a watershed moment in ancient India with Ashoka's rule in the Mauryan Empire. Now gradually Mauryan Empire has also gone down. In the last two lectures, we saw what Mauryan Empire was, what were the art and culture. Very important space. Now we are going to a particular period. It's mostly a transition period, I would call it. It's called the post-Mauryan age. Okay, so post-Mauryan age, I think it's also called the golden age in economy. I'm not sure, just check that. The golden age in art and culture is Gupta period. I think the post-Mauryan age is also the golden age in economy. Just make sure, verify that fact. But yeah, what is the post-Mauryan age and what am I going to cover in this particular lecture? I'm going to see the dynasties in different dynasties and different group of people who have been a part of the post-Mauryan age. So that's the first thing that we would be doing. The dynasties can be Indian and foreign. In Indian we have Shunga, Kanva. Foreign we have multiple. We'll see all the foreign ones: Shungas, Indo-Greeks, Shakas, Parthians, Kushanas. Right? Those are the major Indo-Greeks. Foreign invasions and the dynasties that have come through. Finally, we'll be looking at what their contributions are. This part is a bit important. Okay, what is the post-Mauryan age contribution, especially people who have come from Central Asia, these invaders who have come from Central Asia, and what have they particularly contributed. So also remember what are the different invasions we have had. We have had Persian invasion, we just saw that with Cyrus and Xerxes and all initially. Then Greek invasion, which was the Alexander, right? And then we have another set of invasions coming here. So that is all the invasions that we have had. And later we will have the Islamic invasion during the medieval times, right? Anyways. Starting the lecture. So I told you there are two strands in the post-Mauryan period. Which one is Indian? What is the gradual Indian succession to Mauryas? Then we have the foreign invasions. The Indian rulers were toppled, creating new set of people coming in again through the Khyber Pass and whatnot, and creating new dynasties, right? So that line, the Aryan line which came might not end. It will go out of prominence for a while with Kanvas, right? Those set of people, now new set of people are coming in. So Shungas and Kanvas, then we have the foreign ones. We will see each one separately. Shungas are the successors of the Mauryan. Once the Mauryan Empire dies, I think Brihadrath is the last king. So after his reign, Shungas come up. They were actually commander-in-chief of Mauryas, and then they took power, right? Pushyamitra Shunga is the founder. Ashoka's rule saw a lot of embracing of Buddhism. Now Brahmanism is going to make a comeback. So Shungas do support Buddhism, but they are mostly Brahmanical. They are giving more thrust to Brahmanism here, right? That would also mean Pali would go out and Sanskrit would come back. Pali was the lingua franca of Buddhism. Now Sanskrit is going to make a comeback with Brahmanism coming up. Though I said they were supporting Brahmanism, it's not that they've entirely phased out Buddhism. Shungas did make contribution to Buddhism. Looking at Barhut and Sanchi stupas, they were renovated, torrents were added, all these Vedikas were built, all during Shunga reign, right? They renovated the entire Sanchi and Barhut stupas. Now, apart from that, we have important another king after Pushyamitra. We have Agnimitra, and Devabhuti is the last king. On Agnimitra, there is a Kalidas Kavya, which is called Madhavigagnimitram or Madhavigagnimitra. That we would see during the Gupta period, but it is his story which Kalidas has wrote, which is Madhavigagnimitram, right? We will see that later on. But remember that this is the king. It's a Shunga king here, right? Apart from that, just a small this thing that the capital is Vidisha. Their capital is Vidisha. Kanvas as such we are not looking into. They have done something or the other, not very important, very minor details. We are skipping them. Now we come to the foreign invasions. Right? Now remember, the first Aryan migration had come to Indus Valley, then to Gangetic Plain, then they settled there. After settling in the Gangetic Plain, there was a succession of empires like Magadha, Nanda, then there was Maurya, right? Then there is Kanvas and Shungas. Suddenly, they are being toppled by another set of people. This is the Central Asian invasions. It starts with Indo-Greeks. Indo-Greeks are people. How are the Indo-Greeks? See, the Alexander's army came all the way through Persia till India. So in that process, they had populated with the women there. They have been sleeping around and having their own offsprings. So these offsprings and children grew up, and they are a mixed race, right, from Greek and the Indian peninsula. Right? So that's how they are Indo-Greeks. They are remnants of the Alexander invasion. They are also called Bactrians because that's a geographic term. They are from Bactria. And they are also called Yavans. Yavans are initially a term used for foreigners in the Indian vernacular, but later on they got imprisoned with Indo-Greeks, right? Yavans became Indo-Greeks. Yavans were generally for foreigners. Now they are much more specific. When you look at it, the Indo-Greeks. The same thing is with Mappila. In Kerala, initially Mappila meant foreigners, but now when you think of Mappila, it's mostly an Islamic community person. Initially, Mappilas were everyone, even Portuguese were Mappila, even the Arabs were Mappila, a lot of people, the Jews were Mappila, so they all are Mappila, but at the end of the day, today when you look at it, it's just the Islamic people. Similarly, Yavans were for all foreigners, now when you look at it, it's just for Indo-Greeks, right? Great. So, Demetrius is the founder of Indo-Greeks. They come in the 1st century BC. The most important king is Meander or Milinda, right? Their capital was Sialkot, right? Fine, I think that the detail is enough. Now, few things about Milinda or Meander. He is very important. He embraced Buddhism. He was converted to Buddhism by a saint called, by a monk called Nagsen, right? Buddhist monk called Nagsen, who wrote the questions of Milinda, Milinda Panho. That means the questions of Milinda. It is a religious questions of Milinda. Milinda is asking what is Buddhism, who is Buddha, what does he say, what are his principles, and all these things have been written down by Nagsen in the question answer format, and that's called Milinda Panho. It is Milinda's questions. Meander is Milinda. Another thing during this time is the Garud pillar inscription at Besanagar, Garud pillar inscription, which is a Vaishnavite inscription by someone called Heliodorus. Heliodorus is a Greek ambassador. Just remember this fact. Which would also mean that with Buddhism, Vaishnavism is also there. So Vaishnavite inscription on Garud pillar. Garuda is the vehicle of Vishnu, right? So that's how you know it's a Vaishnavite inscription. Garud pillar inscription at Besanagar. It's a Vaishnavite inscription done by Heliodorus, who is a Greek ambassador who then got converted to Vaishnavism. Fine. Gandhara school of art develops during Indo-Greek time. We are not going to go into Gandhara school of art right now. We are gonna see it later on when we see all the art schools together. Gandhar, Amravati and Mathura, we'll see them together. I am just mentioning it here. Another thing that happens is Yavanika. Yavanika in Malayalam also Yavanika is there, which is the curtain of the show, right? Any drama ends with Yavanika. Actually, it comes from Yavans, Yavanika. They bring it to Indian dramas, the entire concept of curtains. So, Yavanika is curtains introduced by them. Yavan Priya is pepper. They like pepper, so whatever is Priya for Yavan is pepper. Gold coins with kings' names were first introduced by Indo-Greeks. That's an important fact. Gold coins with kings' names. Gold coins as such is not introduced by Indo-Greeks. That has been there from Vedic period. We saw Nishka, right? But gold coins with kings' names, that was introduced by Indo-Greeks. Now, coming to Shakas. Shakas are also called Scythians. Very minor details are required here. Scythians, the founder is Moes, M-A-U-E-S, right? They divided the kingdom into satraps, and every satrap had a satrapi. And then the most important king is Rudradaman, okay? Rudradaman is an important king during the Shaka period. That's the only thing you need to know. There's an inscription during this time called Junagadh inscription. Junagadh inscription. It is related to Rudradaman, and it is the first inscription in Sanskrit. Remember that Junagadh inscription, first inscription in Sanskrit during the time of Shakas. Very important fact. That's all we need of Shakas. We check them. We come to Parthians. Very minor details are required for Parthians. Parthians are basically from Iran. They are the most important scientific name is Gondophares. Gondophares, G-O-N-D-O-P-H-E-R-N-E-S, Gondophares. It's during his reign Saint Thomas had come. Saint Thomas is the guy, he's the apostle who is coming to Kerala. He comes to Kerala and then to Madras and where not. So, and he converts the first Christian conversion into Christianity happens during the Saint Thomas time. Right? So, people even say he did not commit some myth. We are not very sure about the historical certainty of this, but it is said that Saint Thomas had come during this history. I think he's also killed somewhere in Madras later point in time. Right? Saint Thomas, remember that. The most important dynasty among the Central Asian ones is Kushanas. Very important. You have to spend some time here. They are also called Luchis because the tribe name is Luchi, and Tosharenes. Okay, Tosharenes. Just remember that. And there are two dynasties within the Kushanas. One is the Kadphises, the earlier dynasty, and his line continues. But that is then later replaced by Kanishka, who is from 78 AD to 120 AD. He is the most important king in the Kushana's times. Kanishka, very important, Kanishka. You also have a headless statue of him, which is very famous. I think you can see it in the National Museum. I'm not sure. Right? So Kanishka, very important. Capital is Peshawar. Initial capital was Peshawar. They also had a second capital in Mathura. They embraced Buddhism. It is during Kanishk time where the Central Asian elements, Central Asian religious ideas and elements is coming in contact with the Buddhism that is exactly in India, and they come together and a fusion happens, creating Mahayana Buddhism. What is the major core of Mahayana Buddhism? It is from Mahayana Buddhism that we have idol worship of Buddha, statues of Buddha, huge sculptures of Buddha. All that originates with Mahayana Buddhism. Buddha was against statue worship or idol worship, but in the end, Buddhism has come to against worshipping statues and idols. The same thing with, let's say, the Srinarayana Guru movement in Kerala. He was also against statue worship and idol worship, but now today when you look at it, every other corner has a temple of Srinarayana Guru or a statue of Srinarayana Guru. Exactly what happens to a religion. The ideas get bankrupt, right? That has happened with Mahayana Buddhism here. Now, they also issued gold coins. The gold content in the Kushana's coins are much more than Gupta period gold coins. Okay, just remember that fact. The fourth Buddhist council happens during the Kanishk period in Kashmir. We have already seen it, right? 98 AD or something. Just go back to the other lecture and check it, right? So now there are important scholars also for during Kushana's time. Now Vasumitra, Ashwaghosh, Nagarjun and Charak. Very important. Vasumitra, Ashwaghosh, Nagarjun and Charaka. This point I will discuss later. It's fine. So these are important things about Kushana's time period. Now we are looking at what are the major contributions by the post-Mauryan, the Central Asian contact. Post-Mauryans had all these people coming from Central Asia. So what are they providing to India? What are their contributions? In trade and technology, they introduced saddles, the seat on horses, right? On a horse you have a seat, saddles, reins, right? All this is the rein of the horse, right? Reins. And even I think stirrups also, I'm not sure, stirrups, the place where you keep your leg, right? All those has been introduced by the Central Asian people. See, Central Asian people are steppe people, steppe grasslands, right? There are a lot of horses there. That is how you how you run through grasslands. All the invading armies of the Central Asia have had horses. Even if you look at Genghis Khan or Timur, they are all horse people invading. We did not have horse indigenously. So they are bringing horse and its technology, its saddles, its reins, its stirrups. And to sit on horses, you need trousers. So you have trousers here. Trousers are introduced by them. Long coats have been introduced by them, which is what you call today as sherwani. Sherwani is that long coat introduced by the post-Mauryan people, right? So they introduced trousers, turbans, tunics. All those things are introduced by the Central Asians, majorly Kushanas. It's the Kushanas who are introducing this more than anyone else, right? That's with trade and tech. And apart from that, Altai Mountains, which is there closer to Pamir North, they had a lot of gold. So they also brought to India a lot of gold. And these Central Asians also controlled the Silk Route. All the merchants going through the Silk Route from China to Europe, they were taxed by them. That's why they are so good with the economy. That's why it's also called the Golden Age economy, where all the taxation has been very good. They control the trade routes. They have very good trading mechanisms, right? All this created a wonderful age for economy in India. Polity wise, they had a lot of native princes, small princes. They gave some land to some prince, some other land to some prince, which converted the centralized administration we had during whose period? Mauryan period, gradually to a feudal system. So feudalism is gradually coming up. By the time we end Gupta, it is entirely feudal, and that is where medieval history starts. Here, the gradual spark of feudalism is coming up. Again, they introduced a government called satrap system. Each thing was divided into a particular province called satrap, and everything had a satrapi, which was the head. They also had hereditary dual rule. Two kings in one place. Two kings in one place. Two kings used to rule in one place. That's called hereditary dual rule. That was also a significant part of post-Mauryan contribution to polity. Society-wise, now there's new people coming in, and the entire Hindu system is thinking, how do we incorporate them into our society? The Hindu society had become a caste society. Now, where do we incorporate them? They are not Kshatriyas kids. They are not Brahmins kids. They are not Shudras kids, or anyone's kids for that matter. These are new people. How do we incorporate? Then but they are rulers. They have been ruling. They have power. They have pushed people out, and they have been ruling. So somehow they have to be incorporated in the Hindu society. So these Brahmins find out a method to do it. She's saying that they are Kshatriyas fallen from duty. They are Kshatriyas, but not pure Kshatriyas. They are Kshatriyas who have fallen from duty. Hence, they are called Patit Kshatriyas. Padanam means to fall, right? So, Patit Kshatriya. Kshatriyas fallen from duty. Also, during this time in society, we already discussed Mahayana Buddhism comes into being. Few literature we have to know during this period. Buddha Charita, the first biography of Buddha is written by Ashoka. He also writes Saundarananda. I do not know what it is, but Magita. Saundarananda and Buddha Charita. Buddha Charita is a biography of Buddha, both by Ashoka. Then Mahayana start having their own literature. You remember Jains have this literature. Jains have a lot of literature called Angamas. Yes. So we saw that in the Jain period. Now Mahayana Buddhism is going to have their own literature. Pitakas were there already. The Buddhist literature, Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka, Vinay Pitaka, Abhidhamma Pitaka, all these things we already had. During which time? During the first Buddhist council, second Buddhist council. So Buddhist literature already exists. But all those were Hinayana literature, right? Now there is a new branch of Buddhism coming in, which is called Mahayana. So Mahayana Buddhism would have its own literature, which is called Avadanas. Avadanas are Mahayana Buddhist literature. They are two important Avadanas. I have written it here: Mahavastu and Divyavadana. Mahavastu and Divyavadana. Two important Buddhist literatures, right? On the other hand, finally, there is science, a bit of science that we see here. See the horoscope, which we talk about in the Greek system, zodiacs and horoscope. It's actually borrowed from India. Horoshastra, that is what astronomy or astrology was there in India. That got mixed with the Greek thing, creating horoscope. Horoshastra. Horoscope comes from Horoshastra in the Indian terminology. Then there is Charak Samhita. Charak Samhita is another important thing that develops here. I told you Charak was an important scholar in the Kushana time period. So Charak was actually a physician. So he collected all the medicinal plants, all the plants from here and there, and understood what are the chemical compositions of them and for what disease can you use them, and created the Charak Samhita. It's the first Ayurvedic text here. Aushadhi, the word and all comes from the Charak Samhita, right? So that's what hence you see there's a lot of contribution from the Central Asian invasion and Central Asian contact to Indian society. So all these contributions are very important. You should learn them well. It's there in trade and tech, it's there in polity, it's there in society, it's there in literature, and it is also there in science. So this is mostly with post-Maurya. It's an important thing. It's an important space that we should be learning. It's an important thing that we should be learning. So again, I'm going to summarize post-Maurya. There was an Indian branch to it. There's a foreign branch to it. There is Shungas, which was the Indian branch, and Kanvas, Indian branch. Foreign are Central Asian invasions, which happens to be all these people: Indo-Greeks, Shakas, Parthias, and Kushanas. I hope you have understood this. It's an important lecture. Please do it well. Thank you.